Makenna Blackman and Daniel Silvas, proud Californians with conservative values. Dive into the Golden State's latest news, laws, and national stories. No fluff, no filter, just raw, honest takes on how these issues impact you. Tune in for truth, laughs, and bold perspectives. Let's get started.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Makenna Blackman.
This is yours truly, Daniel Silvas. Everybody, how's it going?
So our first topic of the night is going to be about the California minimum wage, how it affected about 18 to 20,000 jobs. Daniel, what can you say about this?
Well, one, if the California voters actually voted no on the minimum wage increase, in the previous election cycle, but the Democrat supermajority in Sacramento, that includes state assembly and state senate, the legislation full of Democrats
Hmm.
supermajority. They anyway, bypassing the voter, they went to pass a bill raising the minimum wage through Sacramento, through the swamp of Sacramento, then got signed into law by California Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom,
Hmm.
and thus we've had this year a raise in minimum wage,
Yep.
and the majority. I'll know what Sacramento's mind. They think they're helping the regular Californian out, the middle class. They're not. We've
They
had
they never have.
they never have, and we had a loss of 18 to 20,000. A lot of jobs in the fast food restaurant industry,
Yeah.
and that's what we've seen, an increase in pricing. And regular burgers, they used to be real cheap. That would help out the middle class family. So, what's your take?
I mean, I don't think the increase was helpful at all. If anything, it negatively impacted the economy, because if you think about it, you raise the minimum wage, everything else has got to go up, menu prices, um, everything in between has to go up just to, you know, balance it all out. Maybe there's a better word for that I'm not thinking of right now, but that's kind of what I think about it. AB, I think it was Assembly Bill 1228, I think it was, that was passed. And it was also established by the Fast Food Council um, for this increase. But from what I heard, a lot of people were against it. A lot of voters were against this. I know Democrats wanted to be like, oh, well, all these families who are living off fast food jobs, who are supporting families, needed this. I think this makes people comfortable, and you shouldn't want to be comfortable in this kind of a job. I think you should seek a better job that's not fast food. I'm not hating on fast food workers because we need everyone in everywhere. But if you're supporting a family, don't you want to do better? Don't you want to have a better job? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, one, raising a family in California just got way more expensive in
Mhm.
California with Sacramento doing this. And again, it has costed a lot of beginner starter jobs that a lot of high school graduates, college graduates, or college students
Yeah.
would be taking. It took away a lot of the opportunities to enter the
Yes.
workforce. So I feel for Gen Z. I feel for you guys, and we want to change that. We want the California people to know, be aware of it. And I believe also In and Out CEO Lindsay Snyder, if I'm saying her name correctly, even talked about it. She's leaving California. Me as a
Yeah,
Californian,
she's going to Tennessee, like a lot of people have been. Tennessee, Texas, Arizona, Florida. I know Joy Villa pretty well. I've interviewed her a couple times on OAN. I know some of our viewers tonight know me from there. She's been on. I've talked to her before, and she's talked about how it's just so horrible. Like essentially, it's just so horrible to live here. You can't afford it, and it's just all these weird things that are just being allowed. And I want to speak to like the college. These are college kids' jobs. If you have illegals, because essentially a lot of it is going to, really ideally support the illegals who are here. Um, it's taking job opportunities from hardworking college kids and high schoolers. Because if you're a mother or a father and you're trying to support a family, you should have a job that is for that. So this minimum wage kind of just allowed, grown adults to be comfortable with the bare minimum, and it takes away from our youth learning job, like how to handle a job, how to handle money, because for the longest time, jobs like this were starter jobs, you know? So,
I
yeah, pass that
started
to
in the
you.
food industry. Like my first job out of high school, I started in the food industry. So I'm feeling for all the today's high school graduate where they now got to compete hard, extra harder than what it was. And believe me, it was hard in my day to get a starter job. When you have no work,
Mhm.
you need every opportunity that is presented to you. You know, and today I went to Jack in the Box. You know, I was looking at the pricing menu. I'm like, damn, like these little small burgers like close to $6,
It
$8.
used to be really cheap.
You know, but
Yeah.
I'm still very young, but a couple years back, I remember it was just like just $2-3 to get a good burger to kind of put in your stomach when you're in a rush. But in today's economic society in California, that's not the case today. So I'm feeling for the average family out there and a young Californian.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of kids these days don't want to work as it is, but regardless, it still takes away from those who do want to, who do aspire to, get off the screen and not be an influencer. And not that I'm hating on influencers at all, but I'm just saying you have this whole, I guess, ideology or, um, societal push that is like pushing, the OnlyFans, the TikToking, and let's get back to what we used to be. Let's get back to the real jobs. So, I mean, that's kind of where I have left on that topic. But any more comments on that from you? So,
You know, my only prayers goes out to Gen Z, the young Californians
yeah,
who are graduating out of school, looking to make a living and start
not
their
easy.
life. It's not easy. So I'm feeling you guys, and we hope that Californians are aware and that changes are made in the future. Elections have consequences.
No, they definitely do. And for far too long, we've had this super majority of Democrat in California. I know we've had a couple of like Republican leaders in our state, governors, but from what I know, it was they're kind of more like Rhino Republican, if that makes sense. I feel like we need a real conservative for governor, honestly, and I think there's a couple contenders who are strong enough for that.
Yes.
But kind of thinking about the Gen Z, the trans issue has also been a big topic lately. I know women's sports has been of the on topic of the Trump administration. A lot of Republicans. I mean, I think there was something about in California. It's kind of escaping me right now, but they were fighting a lot. A lot of people were fighting to keep a bill from passing to protect our young women in high schools who are, have these boys in their locker rooms. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, there's many. You know, there's a lot of opinions. So here's one of them. So
Yeah.
one, I remember once upon a time we were doing everything we can to save and protect women and girls.
Mhm.
And federally, we have Title IX. We've had Title IX since the women's, rights
Yeah.
movement, suffrage, et cetera, et cetera. And in modern times, they've made attempts, the small, the small leading people in office, trying to have boys compete in girls sports. And a good
It's
example is this.
ridiculous.
So um, Los Angeles, California is going to have the Olympics in 2028, and we're all of California, SoCal, Los Angeles getting ready for the Olympics. And recent news regarding the U.S. OPC, which is the Olympic Board of the United States, have recently made a decision to bar transgender women from participating
Yeah.
in women's sports.
I did
And
hear about that.
and I think that that's a step in the right direction to protect women's sports and their rights.
Yeah.
And as science could tell, men have superior biology.
Superior. Yeah.
Excuse me about that. But when it comes to physical activity, men, per science, it's proven scientifically that
Hmm.
could outcompete women and girls in sports.
Yeah. I just don't understand why Democrats are pushing so hard for it, though. It's like they don't even know what a woman is. You can't. You have these feminists who are like, oh, let's protect trans women. I just don't understand it. You know, that's not a feminist thing. If you were such a feminist, you would, fight against it. So, what are your thoughts on that? I mean,
One, we got dirty in our power to protect girls and women's sports. That's priority. I'm a
yep,
father of three daughters. I'm a father of three daughters, and the last thing I want to see if I'm taking my girl out to go compete soccer, basketball, and whatever sport that they're competing against a biological boy, biological male, and that's so unfair. And that's the key word, unfair to these girls throughout California.
yeah. No, it definitely is unfair. It isn't fair. Um, so I don't understand how Newsom and all of these, our Democrat leaders, they're just trying to be like, well, it's fair to have because they are women. No, you're not. You're not a woman. You're a man trying to play dress up, essentially. I
Yeah,
think it's just
yeah,
like trying to, play dress up. But there's a good number of, I guess, trans women, trans men who have come out and say, yeah, I should have never done this. Like it destroyed me. I have to be in the. I think I remember there was an interview with Matt Walsh on one of the movies that he made. I think it was called "What Is a Woman." Correct me if I'm wrong, but the I think it was a woman trying to be a man, or who transitioned to be a man, was telling Matt that they're in the hospital pretty frequently because they constantly have infections and they constantly have medical problems. This is just adding to the crisis of medical officials, people in the medical industry making our children sick. Making our children sick with medications, with, the cutting up the bodies and, you know, different things like that. Your thoughts on that? I know you have 3 daughters, like you said, so I
yes.
mean, I'm sure
I
it
believe
hits home.
federally the White House administration, they've have done their part classifying these as child mutilations, which is a correct term. Children growing up, they're still developing hormone, going through teenage years. So you have a lot on your mind. You're going through a lot of physical changes. And the person who they are, the individual they are when they were 15 is not the individual who they're going to become when they're 18, 19 years old. you know
Yep. Yep.
Everyone has to go through that puberty it's I've been through it, you've been through it. It's not cool, it's not fun, but it's something we all got to go through and we discover ourselves.
I mean, I remember just going through a lot of different phases growing up. I hate to admit it, but I was into K-pop for a little bit. I had the knee-high boots, not to show my age or anything like that. I had the knee-high Converse boots, and so that's just to say, you go through a lot of phases growing up. And
Yes.
it's well into your early 20s and late teens too. You're just trying to figure out who you are. Um, so I mean, I guess kind of reeling it back in, it's good that the Olympics are not allowing trans to participate. Let's keep it the way it is. What's wrong with that? What's so wrong with keeping men with against men and women against women?
Yes,
That's fair.
that's fair. Keyword fair, and it's all about having fairness for everybody.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, that also kind of reminds me of, have you seen the stuff going on with, oh, what's her name? Sydney Sweeney? Is that her name? Something Sweeney?
Something like that, I believe, has to do something with
She's the new campaign for American Eagle.
American Eagle. I believe it has to do
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So everyone, like all these like weird trans LGBTQ activist people are like coming after her because she's a white woman who looks good, who's very attractive. Why they're like, oh, why is it not like, they're essentially saying, why is it not like a trans person? This is Nazism. This is pushing white supremacy. You'll have to look up the ad and you'll see like all of this. Like, oh my gosh! But what do you think?
Oh, I believe it started over a tweet, right? A X post, in other words, and it started a national outrage over that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. I mean, it's all at the end of the day, it's all stupid. It's just a waste of energy, a waste of time. I mean, why can't we just, you know, let's get back to the traditional American Christian, because we're founded on Christian ideals, and um this just getting all this like transgender crap and is pushing it down our children's throat, which is the worst part,
I think the key
you
word to look
know.
for is common sense.
Common sense.
We
Yeah. Get back to
California
common
needs
sense.
common sense,
Mhm.
grounded policies, and we definitely need new leadership.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely do. And I'm thankful that we have Trump back in office too. So, he's done a lot of great things in the first like what, 7, almost 8 months now. So I mean that's big, but oh man, it's just it kind of exhausts me. You know, you see all this, you see all the different crazy stuff, especially with Newsom going after and AG Bonta going after the Temecula School Board. I think it was like a year or two ago they did that, um, because they wanted to essentially keep trans and books out of public schools and keep our children healthy. I mean, like, what's wrong with that?
I
What's
believe
wrong with
I
protecting our
believe
kids?
I believe Bonta went after I believe Long Beach. I believe they went after the Chino Valley Unified School District.
Well, all
I
of them
believe
really.
the
So,
Redlands Unified School District, and
hmm
all these are school districts around the Southern California region. I only couldn't imagine what going through Central or even Northern California.
hmm all because we want to protect our kids.
Yes.
All because of that. It's crazy to me. But at least he's termed out, Newsom. He's termed out now. Do you think he's going to run for president? There's a lot of rumors that he is.
Oh, a lot of onions layer to peel right there. The writing's on the wall. He is going to run for president in 2028. You know, he's
Do you see
he's
him
already
winning?
he's already doing it. He's already um in Texas. They're planning on redistricting their congressional lines, and the California governor Gavin Newsom has made threats if Texas does it, California will do it too. As a Californian, this is a bad omen for us, as a state entirely.
Yeah, it definitely is. Oh my gosh. If we see to see 2028, that is, with all the
Yes.
wars going on, if the nuclear war doesn't break out before then, um, but I don't think I honestly don't think it will. Um, I'm just joking, guys. I'm not trying to say anything. No conspiracy theories here, or
We
are
gotta be
there?
optimistic, and I'm optimistic.
Gotta consider everything, right?
I'm an
So
optimistic Californian. I'm an optimistic American, and there's one I do want to talk about regarding being optimistic. I believe within the last couple weeks or so that there was a huge Christian event, a huge public event,
yeah,
involving Harvest Pastor Greg Laurie and
yeah. Talk
Pastor.
about that. Were
Yeah,
you there?
no, I was not there. I was handling a couple of public servant duties around in my area, but there were 45,000 attendees were in that concert event, that Christian event, and the Orange County Fire Marshal had to put a limit and cap to it.
Because a lot of people wanted to go.
Yes, a lot of people want to go. So
Well,
a
that's good
lot
though.
Yeah, it's good. A lot of people want to hear something different, compared to the mainstream trash we got going on right now. People are going to events such as Harvest, Christian events, conservative leaning events.
Yeah,
And
and a few years ago, more than a few years ago, actually, I think it was like middle school or high school. I actually went to a harvest festival. It was actually really fun. I remember Lecrae being there. He was performing. He's one of my favorite Christian artists. I don't know if you know who he is, but
I I
um,
I believe
he's like a Christian rap artist.
I was
So
in that one with Lecrae. And
yeah, yeah,
talking about the Orange County Fire Marshal, Fire Marshal, I believe we do have a good interview special guest today, from San Diego Fire, running for San Diego Fire, correct? Can you describe that a little bit more correctly?
yeah. So Cole Marting is running for the North County Fire District.
Ooh, and I want to let our guests know right here, we do have him, and we want our audience to hear him out and hear the question that concerns not just San Diego County, Riverside County, but SoCal, but all of California. Um,
Yeah.
Apparently, all of California is now a fire endangered state. We want to hear more from Cole. So for our
Yep.
audience right here, please get to know Cole. He's here in the next segment.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. We have Cole with us today. He's going to talk to us about some fire topics. Go ahead and start with who you are, and what you're running for.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Makenna, Daniel. Thanks for having me on today. Great to be here as a part of your guys' podcast here. My name is Cole Marting. I'm running for North County Fire Protection District here in Fallbrook, California. The district itself incorporates what is known as the second most fire-prone community here in California. So we know fires here in North County. A little bit about myself. My goal and my primary focus with running for fire board really stemmed out of my experience with some fires pretty recently, actually. Earlier this year in January 2025, I was at home with my wife. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I quickly realized that there was three concurrent fires burning towards our home. When I looked over at her, I saw that she had a tear in her eye. Right, she was very, very concerned about the fires burning towards us. We turned on the news. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning, and the reporter goes, the firemen can't start fighting the fire until the sun comes up. They don't have the necessary equipment. It broke my heart that we're not outfitting our firemen with the proper equipment. And in that moment, that's when I started digging into the fire board. What is going on? Why aren't we outfitting our firemen properly? And I realized there's a lot of problems going on here in the Golden State as it relates to fire policy. A couple of years ago, when I wrote my book, California's Toughest Challenges and the Common Sense Conservative Ways to Solve Them, fire policy and wildfires were one of the main topics. It's something that us Californians, as you guys know, we face on a regular basis. And it's an absolute shame. So I decided to throw my hat in the ring and run for fire board because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Definitely. Yeah. So, Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, Cole, fires do not know borders, and the area you're running for is North San Diego County. And
Yeah.
I live in Riverside County, which is the adjacent county north of you guys, and fires do not respect boundaries. So we definitely want to hear you out. We want to let the audience know more about you. So thank you for being on the show. My name is Daniel Silvas. Thank you, Cole. And I got the first question for you here. So when it comes to fire prevention, what are California officials currently doing wrong at both state and local level? Who's getting it right?
Yeah, I mean, we're not getting a lot of anything right in the state of California at the moment. You talk about really any policy that we're facing, much less wildfires. We're not doing the right thing. One of the biggest challenges that I've seen over the years is that opposing environmental groups primarily are saying, hey, we cannot manage our brush, we cannot clear dead debris, and we just need to let forests or wildlands grow unchecked. Now, like many liberal policies, it may sound good on the surface, right? Oh, we're going to let our wildlands grow. But in reality, when you do that, you're not, in fact, protecting any kind of species or wildlands in general. In fact, you're creating this tinderbox for wildfires. And I commonly have this conversation with these groups. I say, there's nothing more detrimental to the environment than wildfires. I mean, just take a look at the wildfires back in 2022. That erased 18 years of statewide greenhouse gas emission progress that we made. And so 18 years of hard, potentially good work on the greenhouse gas emission issue was completely erased because of bad environmental policy that was set forth by the state of California. And so, Daniel, when you bring it up, who's getting it right, who's getting it wrong? Man, I think we're on the wrong side of this at the moment.
No, definitely. I totally agree with that. I mean, it's not even just fire, though. It's everything that's going
Mhm.
on in the state right now. It's a complete mess. So, I mean, what are your thoughts about the Palisades fires that happened earlier this year? There was a concert that they did for the victims. They said the funding was going to go to them, but it ended up not going to them. I mean, where did it go?
I mean, McKenna, you and I were talking about this. It
Yeah.
seems like it was a good intention, right?
Mhm.
This was supposed to go to the wildfire victims that tragically went through this catastrophic environment. But in reality, a lot of that money is being spent on nonprofits that really don't have a direct tie to the recovery effort. I come from a profession of property insurance, right? Part of the solution of these large catastrophic environments and situations is the free market playing out, right? And the insurance carriers taking care of their policyholders. But on the other side, this nonprofit side, we're seeing money completely wasted. Right? I just saw a report the other day that a nonprofit in the in that's focusing primarily on cleaning bathrooms at preschools and kindergartens is receiving millions of dollars in funding. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I consider myself to be a common sense guy, and I don't foresee how we're cleaning any bathrooms in kindergarten facilities or why that should be handled through a nonprofit with millions of dollars. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No, I mean, you see all this funding going to transgender, like, education systems and weird queer books and all that stuff, but you can't give money to people whose houses, million-dollar houses, I might add, that burned down in what's a neighborhood that's, like, probably, I think, really old. So, I mean, but Daniel, he had another question for you.
you
So,
know, talking about the LA Fire Aid concert, I
Mhm.
remember at the time, it's been a couple months, but at the time, California Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom was touting and endorsing, supporting it. That
mhm.
the money's going to go to the victims. And as well as some LA leaders like Karen Bass, and just to name a few, other Democrat elected officials that they were touting this LA Fire concert. Go support the victims, help all the victims. So my question is, what do you know about Newsom and LA leaders taking the Palisades land to create low-income housing? There have been some reports circulating about that, and what are your thoughts on this, regardless of its validity?
Right. It's interesting anytime the government steps in and kind of takes land in that way. If I'm going to approach it from a perspective that makes the most sense, I would say, hey, let the landowners who currently own the land, right? Maybe their property's destroyed and they received a check from the carrier, but they still own the land, right? Let them decide what they want to do with the land, whether they want to rebuild or whether they want to sell it. Now, the city and that community is going to have to go through some community planning, right? Because I can guess there's going to be a significant amount of those properties that choose not to rebuild. And so, what they decide to do with that land really has to come together as a community and say, hey, what's going to be the best for the entire rebuild effort? And whether it's maybe rezoning or identifying new places that government buildings have to be put in place or retail buildings or basically redesign the city from the ground up. You really want that decision coming from the community. You don't want that coming down from the state level.
No, definitely not. I mean, I feel like all that money that raised went to probably some shady stuff that they were doing behind closed doors. The whole I forget what it's called, but the Olympics are coming in 2028. They were thinking about doing this whole it was like a clean city or 15-minute city kind of thing to get it cleaned up for the mass of people that are coming. I mean, what do you think about that?
It's interesting, right? I mean, there's all kinds of different plays and perspectives at hand here. What really should be occurring is the rebuild effort. That should be the primary focus, right? And we should get out of the way of that rebuild effort. One of the biggest challenges that I've had firsthand talking with a lot of these restoration contractors, for example, they talk about how difficult it is to get the permitting required to rebuild in these areas, the environmental regulations that are in place, the CEQA regulations that are in place. It is very, very hard to rebuild. And so, if we're looking at this at a state level and we say, what is the best thing that we can be doing to make these people's lives better? Believe it or not, government getting out of the way might just be the best chance that these guys have at getting their life back to normal.
Definitely. So I guess that kind of brings me to my next question for you in regards to funding. I mean, what is San Diego doing differently than LA or San Francisco or any other city really? So what is San Diego doing to prevent wildfires and where's all that funding going in this county?
Yeah, it's a good question. And when it comes to North County Fire and many of these fire districts that you find around Southern California, and I want to make sure your viewers understand that when you're within a city or a municipality, many times the city council oversees the fire department, right? Just like they would oversee the police department. When you're in a community like mine, it's an unincorporated part of San Diego County. And so we have to elect our own folks to oversee the fire department this way. Right now, you see a concerted effort between these fire districts and local water boards to make sure that we have the pressure across hydrants. Right, we saw that in Los Angeles, how there was no pressure at the hydrants, and they weren't
Mhm.
thinking ahead. Luckily, we have some really strong, smart, conservative folks on the local water districts here in North County, San Diego, that have thought through that issue. And unfortunately, Los Angeles had to witness that firsthand. But guys, elections have consequences. If you are electing the wrong folks in these positions, it will have an outcome on your life. And local politics probably matters a whole lot more than federal and state politics.
No, it definitely does because it's right there. It's in your face. It's your everyday. So, I mean, we can kind of see that already with our governor, with congressmen and certain people in office. I could talk all day about my despise for them, but um, you know, it's just we need the right people in office. So, but Daniel, do you have any comments?
Yes, I do. So I you brought up something very important regarding elections have consequences.
Right.
No matter if it's a president, congressman, U.S. senator, even something as small as school board, even fire, district, or even LA city council figures, for example, right? And I personally believe that the LA fire was a wake up call that for a lot of people not to keep electing the same ridiculous people that are money laundering these fire aid victims, for example, but
Mhm.
also being negligent regarding the fire hydrants, having no pressure on them, for the firefighters to fight with the fire. So my question is this: should Californians be paying the amount of taxes that they do when the officials cannot even budget the state well or provide financial aid to fire victims and victims of natural disasters?
Yeah, I've talked about this at length. I don't believe the state of California, in my opinion, has an income problem. I think we have a spending problem at the end of the day.
Definitely.
When you look at some of the local municipalities and especially with the fire board here, most of the revenue comes from two places. Number one, property taxes, which, as we know, with the propositions, does not increase significantly like it does in other states. Year over year, you're almost locked into a certain percentage increase, which helps protect our seniors. Um, but the second bit of it comes a lot from federal government grants. And so, in my opinion, I think the closer that we can get the dollars down to the people, the better it's going to be spent, right? Local fire boards are going to know exactly what they need to do to make sure that they protect their communities. The big state government, probably not. I will say this: state of California has the one of the best firefighting forces on the face of the planet. Cal Fire does a fantastic job, and when you speak with those firemen and when you see what they do, they are doing some fantastic work. What's going very poorly is the management of that, and really that has to do with who we elect into the state legislature.
Yeah. Um, I'm curious, you were talking about while you're talking, can you kind of explain like what a fire district is? Because not a lot of places have fire districts. So
Yeah.
kind of go into depth about that.
Yeah, fire districts are so interesting. They sit at the same level as you may be familiar with, like a school board or a water district. They sit at that same level, that same tier. I know that San Diego has a few of them. Orange County has a few as well. And really, it's for helping out the unincorporated parts of the community. And so, North County Fire oversees about 90 square miles of some of the most fire prone environments in all of California. Fallbrook, California, Rainbow, and Bonsall as well. And so these areas, are partially here because of our housing crisis, right? You look at some of the most houses that are being built in San Diego County. It's on the outskirts in really what we call wildland urban interfaces, right? It's where these communities are being built directly up against these large wildland areas. And so when you take the years of mismanagement, when you take the years of just letting brush grow, and then you take the pressure of the housing crisis, and those two things are butting up against each other, you put a lot of pressure on the fire board, right? And historically speaking, in my opinion, this fire board in North County Fire has not been managed correctly. Mismanagement of funds and mismanagement of priorities has led us to what I call a tipping point, right? Where we're no longer in an environment where there's fire season. It is all year round. And if you don't have local fire boards that are prepared, it's going to spell disaster.
Definitely. So, what is in your position, if you are on the board currently, um, talk about your position, what you would do, but then also how would you kind of go about funding wise?
Yeah, it's a great point you bring up, right? So, what are the priorities? Well, one of the biggest challenges if I were to be elected onto this fire board is that it's currently 4-1 Democrat. So it is a vast Democrat majority. And if you look at Fallbrook and you look at Bonsall and you look at Rainbow, it's a very conservative part of San Diego County. In fact, some of the most conservative, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so you look at the work that has been done historically by the Democrat Party in this county. They've done a good job of loading up these local water boards, these local school boards, these local fire boards with Democrat majorities. And so step number one is to make sure we can get a few other Republicans elected so that we can start getting some common sense policy done and not the mismanagement. Just last year, or just this year in itself, what the fire board did is because of years of fiscal mismanagement and wrong prioritizing in their monthly and yearly budgets, what they've actually done is sell off a baseball field. It's crazy. This is a famed community baseball field that the local boys and girls clubs were using and the local little leagues were using, and they sold it off because of there's mismanagement of the budget to be able to fund a new fire station. In my opinion, they should have been funding this new fire station for years, years and years and years, and using that money properly. But that's just not the case. And so that's what happens when you get poor people, poor government folks elected into these roles. Is they can't function properly, and it ultimately ends up hurting everybody.
What's crazy though is Vista, a lot of northern San Diego County at one point was conservative, or at
Mhm.
least leaned that way. Vista used to be a red. The current mayor is a Republican, who I know very well actually. But it's just crazy to me how we've gotten to this like really deep blue of not just a county but a state as well. Um, from what I know, Riverside County was pretty red for a while, including I think Orange County is too still. So, but Daniel, any comments?
Yes, I do. I actually have a couple. Cole, you brought up something very important, and that was that it used to be summertime or at the end of summer where that was fire season.
Mhm.
And for many years it was. But in the last couple of years, what we've been seeing is that we're having fires in December,
Yep.
January,
Mm-hmm. All
February,
year.
October, November, seasons that we should not be having wildfires or fire watch, and you brought up another interesting point regarding San Diego County, Riverside County being conservative in nature, and I have a hunch that has to do with a lot of people that used to live in LA County in Los Angeles that are moving out of LA because of the poorly run policies of these Democrats, these left-leaning individuals. High taxation, high cost of living, poor quality of life. These this is what add to the exodus of people from LA moving to the Inland Empire, San Bernardino County, Riverside County, San Diego County to Rainbow, Fallbrook, all these spaces that are in nature conservatively, but they're moving because of the bad economics and policies of these Democrat left leaning officials and leaders. So here, and this is my question to you. So, what are your thoughts on the current state of our economy? When in your position, how do you plan to distribute funds to the necessary places to fight these fires?
Yeah, I mean, the state of the economy plays significantly into this whole concept that we're discussing today about wildfires. I think that really plays in with young people, and especially when they're trying to buy a home, right? One of the biggest challenges that you can face if you're in California right now and you're in these growing communities up against these wildlands, getting fire insurance is almost impossible. Almost impossible. And so, if you think about one of the best ways that we can bring the next generation of youth into the middle class, it's really around buying a home. And if we cannot buy a home because we can't get fire insurance, mortgages are going to fall through. You're not going to be able to close on your house. It's going to be a significant problem that we face. And so one of the best things that fire boards can do, one of the best things fire departments can do, is actually lowering response time, because the insurance carriers love to see that. And so that's a direct play. If the fire board can ensure that we have the lowest response times possible, properly equipped firemen who can handle these large catastrophic environments, then insurance carriers might just come back and say, "Hey, maybe I'm willing to offer coverage in this area. Maybe you don't end up on the California Fair Plan. Don't even get me started on the Fair Plan. That's a whole nother topic." But that's primarily the best way a fire board can actually affect the local economy, and ensuring that the next generation of folks can buy homes is making sure that
Mhm.
carriers can do business in their community.
Yeah. What's crazy though is a lot of insurance companies don't want to insure anybody anymore because it's too freaking expensive. And
It is.
you can't really blame them, you know? It's just it doesn't make sense to, because it's too expensive, and then you have a renter's market more than a buyer's market right now. I literally just saw a video on Instagram, I think it was yesterday, of new homes for rent, not to buy, new homes for rent. I'm like, we're gonna be renting for the rest of our lives. We can't even ever buy a home at this rate. Like it's crazy to me. So,
And a lot of
but
that is
yeah,
due to poor policy at the state too. You look
yeah,
at,
it's true.
why over, what is it, 12 plus carriers have left the state of California since 2023.
Mhm.
It's because the insurance commissioner essentially put a cap on how much premiums can increase. Now, it's
Yep.
another one of those, Daniel, as we were talking about, the classic Democrat policies that sounds great. Hey, we're going to protect the homeowner by not allowing premiums to go up. What does that do? Makes it really hard to do business in the state of California. And when
Mhm.
no carriers are left, the only option is the government option. That's a stinky policy. No one wants that one.
That's interesting. No, that's actually true. So, and for to be in business, okay, is to be profitable. If you're not profitable in business, you're not a business, you know? And what's the point of starting a business in California if you're losing money away to natural disasters and fires because of bad policy? So I want to get your quick hot take, and I want the listener, the audience to know. So when they're when state level officials refuse to, they put a cap on rates going up, or they refuse to fight fires. It makes rates go up, but when they're not letting the rates go up, an insurance business is going to leave California. What's going to happen when there's no more fire insurance companies, or policies that cover fires in California, when California law mandates when you buy a new home, you must have homeowners insurance, fire insurance, etc., etc. What's going to happen? Is the state of California going to have some kind of a big brother, big uncle type of program, some kind of to dictate when we buy, how we buy? Is this a step closer to socialism? I want to know your hot take.
Well, a government-run insurance program is never the right option, right? And that's what we ended up with on the California Fair Plan. In fact, a property I own is in a California Fair Plan at the moment. It is extremely expensive. It's very bad coverage. It is not a good option. And so what will end up happening is, because the insurance commissioner is a statewide elected role, currently a Democrat, he's put this cap. Essentially, the carriers can come and petition for a premium increase. And historically, he said no. What he's realizing now is that this historic position that was just kind of a holding pattern for the next gubernatorial run is actually in the spotlight, right? Most folks don't even know who the insurance commissioner is or why it's important, but all of a sudden it's very, very important because of years and years of mismanagement on that role. What it'll end up as is a lot of folks ending up on the California Fair Plan. And so they're not going to have the proper coverage. In fact, earlier this year, when we were just talking about the Palisades fire, a lot of those folks were on the California Fair Plan. What that means is slower return to rebuild. What that also means is a potential complete bankruptcy of the entire system. And if that happens, then there's going to be special assessments on everyone else across the state of California on the Fair Plan, just to keep it up and running and afloat. That does not make a whole lot of sense to me. Daniel, it's a complete mess at the moment.
I agree with you.
Yeah, no. But just to kind of wrap it up. First though, I'm curious, how many people are on the fire district like board or panel?
Yeah, North County Fire, it's 5 people. It's a 5-member board.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. But to wrap it up here, I know we've had you for quite a bit. Where can people go to learn more about you, support you, see what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. The best place to learn more is at colemarting.com. That's where you can go to learn more about who I am, what I care about, the policies that I promote. I know we had a good chance to talk about them today. It's also where you can go to donate and support my campaign. Believe it or not, the Democrats here do not want to see a common sense conservative elected to local office. They're going to fight tooth and nail to make sure it doesn't happen. The only way that we can stop that is to make sure that we have a well-funded campaign and people know about the campaign itself. So please visit colemarting.com.
Awesome.
And that's Cole Marting, SCOLEMARTING.com, correct?
That's right, Daniel. You got it.
Thank you, Cole.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on today, guys.
Of course.
Thank you.